Welcome to the show. Now, sport provides us with unscripted moments of drama that continue to draw big audiences. There's no substitute for live sport in terms of broad appeal. And for example, in the US, the top 10 telecasts of 2020, as rated by Nielsen, included only 2 non-sport broadcasts.
And for sports broadcasters and production companies, the pandemic has meant a singular focus on innovating the experience of one user, the at-home fan. Remote production has become synonymous with the pursuit of innovation in the sports broadcast sector during this period.
Yeah, on today's show, we're welcoming back someone we've been chatting to for at least the last 10 years. But since we spoke last year, his company has changed slightly. We'd like to welcome Malcolm Harland from LiveU. Malcolm, it's good to see you again.
And you. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the welcome.
No problem. So let's start with an update of where we are with LiveU, I guess specifically in the UK, and also how the market has changed over the past 15 months. So maybe give us some trends that you've been seeing.
Yeah, great. Look, it's great to be back on. Hasn't it just been an interesting year? I don't think any of us would have turned the clock back 15 months ago. Let's go through all this again. I think we would all have selected a different route, but we are where we are. And it's amazing that it's a year since we talked about the LU800 launch. And for us, that's been a hugely successful launch in the middle of a pandemic, and all of the features that we talked about there are now being increasingly embedded in our customers' workflows, and it's the customers' workflows and the production sides that have changed so much in the last 12 or 15 months. And I think the trends are being driven by some of the restrictions that have come from COVID. The move to remote production has been accelerated. For us, it started in 2017, and we had broadcasters working on remote production from the US, from sports, bringing it back into studios here in the UK as far back as 2017. But I think the development of that in the last 12 months has gone at a pace that no one could have expected. And we're probably, it's always difficult to judge, isn't it? But we're probably 2, 3, 5 years ahead of where the industry probably expected to be. Broadcast is rightly a very cautious industry. Content is king. Single takes of live is all you get. So technology adoption can be slow and steady, but I think needs have really driven the adoption of remote production. And a risk that's been taken in a calculated way by broadcasters, taking up the equipment that's been at the disposal. And if we look at where we are as LiveU as a company, which, as you alluded to, we're now part of, which is great. Previously as Garland, and we've been brought into that LiveU family, and we're integrating into that now. I think what we're really seeing is that drive towards remote production at studio. So the teams that perhaps would have gone to the field before, enhanced teams, with OB on site, with multiple cameramen on site, and all of that delivery coming from site as well, has definitely changed. Many programs now being made, not just sport, but sport's a great example, but for entertainment programs, for example, as well. The teams that would have been on site are now at studio, and they are producing multiple camera feeds coming back. And the LU800's lent itself to that directly, with 4 live camera feeds coming back in low delay. And then those programs are being made in edit suites and production suites at studio. I think then the step that's really come in the last year is, because of that distributed working environment, many people working from home. We talked about that just at the start of the call. It has to be seamless for people working at home as well. So that lift into cloud-based workflows, I think, has been a really strong move. LiveU feeds coming from a venue, moving into the cloud, being handed off to production in the cloud with directors and producers sitting at home often, rather than in their studios, doing what they would do as if they were in the studio. And then the onward delivery is made sometimes without those signals even touching the ground. And that is a super shift. I don't think all the tools are there yet, and I know we're working very strongly to enhance the tools, especially for the things that were taken for granted, audio workflows, for example. When everything's been done from the studio or it's all been done on site, you've got that fantastic communication from producers, directors, cameramen, talent. Those are the things that need enhancing in a cloud-based workflow where your audio isn't coming from a studio, it's coming through other routes. So I think those elements have been really encouraging, challenging, and diverse for us. And I think we're also seeing a very clear move to let's call it primary distribution, moving into IP and cloud-based workflows as well. So we have the LiveU Matrix platform, which essentially takes I almost called it a traditional LiveU feed there. It shows how long we've been doing this for. A LiveU feed from the market, from a venue. Yeah. It moves into LiveU's Matrix platform, which is completely cloud-based, scalable, to take feeds in and then deliver out. And then those feeds are actually routed through to LiveU clients with LiveU receive servers, whether they're in other clouds or whether they're in galleries or data centers, for those LiveU receivers to do onward delivery. And that's gathered at a pace. And I think we're seeing that shift into contribution over IP, primary distribution over IP. The recent Derek Chauvin trial in Minneapolis was a prime example of LiveU Matrix. There were feeds from the courtroom, managed at the courtroom side, and they were delivered on Matrix, and they allowed Sky, for example, to do a pop-up channel specifically to cover that trial with nobody on site. Nobody needed to be available on site to do that. So lots of changes, lots of shifts, and all challenging, but challenging in the right direction technically, and workflow capability, and all of the other benefits that come with that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, one of the other things we noticed through, because of the pandemic pretty much, was a drop in quality of programming. So a lot of this remote stuff was done through Zoom calls, or people using their own kit at home. You'll get your laptop, but the audio was dodgy, the connection was dodgy, the picture was dodgy. We dealt with it, and but I think people are trying to improve it, and things are changing. But we want to keep some of those benefits. Have you got any insight into that from LiveU?
I think it's a really interesting point. I cannot fault the response of the broadcast industry. Absolutely. When Q2 arrived last year and people weren't moving around. You couldn't do face-to-face interviews. So the deployment of tools like Zoom, Teams, WhatsApp, FaceTime, they became prevalent. I think we all, as viewers, shifted our expectation from quality to content. We were appreciating the fact that we were getting commentaries from experts around the industry around COVID and viruses that we'd never talked about before, and I think those tools as well. You look at the development of Zoom and Teams to improve through that time, but I think as the year developed, what we started to see was a desire to get those quality metrics back again, removing the dropouts, improving picture quality, without losing that. Hey, I'm talking to somebody as if they're in the same place, and I think what we've seen and what we've driven towards, for example, with our LiveU Smart iOS and Android app, is getting the very low delay capability. That's really important to have an interview that feels like it's interactive rather than stilted. And it's fine if you're two broadcasters together, you're used to that. But if you've got a subject matter expert coming in who isn't used to being interviewed, and you've got a 2-second delay, that's really tough to cope with. And so what we've done is we've looked at making sure we've got, a second of delay, but also then taking those steps to saying, actually, we've got to deliver this app. The broadcaster has to deliver this app with no technical knowledge whatsoever. Because if you put a challenge in front of somebody who is an expert in their field, but maybe has a slight technophobia, or they don't want to disturb their own devices, you have to be able to do it quickly. So we've got to the point where LiveU Smart, it can be dropped into an iPhone or Android phone on a single click. You deliver a URL or you deliver a text message, one click, and you are live to the broadcaster, everything set on the phone, and you're just in an interview mode. And that then drives the quality back up, because you've got all of that very nice audio, you've got the very nice cameras that are together with an iPhone or a latest Android device. Yeah. But you've also got bonding, so you're across 2 networks, you're on the Wi-Fi at home, you've got the cellular connection, and you've still got very strong audio return coming through the app. And we're looking at how now to get video return back as well, so both sides can see each other. It's a different layer of the challenge, but those are the things that are going to drive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think latency was one of the big buzzwords of all of 2020, really, with everybody really noticing that and improvements being made. You touched on the technical aspect there, Malcolm. I mean, what sort of technical services are available from LiveU, and what's your sort of like response to that?
I think that the history of a LiveU unit in the field and a LiveU receiving server, it underpins everything we do. Very high quality edge devices, that's fine. I think where the evolution has come is to overlay, as you call it, service layer capabilities. And where we've looked to develop that is to bring the ability to control devices in the field, for example. So we have a layer called IP pipe, which is essentially a layer 2 IP connection. At its simplest level, it means you can control tally lights and PTZ cameras from your remote gallery, and therefore you have the benefit of reducing the footfall in the field. You could actually set up a 4-camera shoot, 3 of them may be PTZ cameras, or you've got 1 locked off, 2 PTZ cameras, and then 1 cameraman who's really doing the heavy lifting camera work. And IP pipe enables that. We have Audio Connect licenses, which move on from the traditional point-to-point return audio to actually bring in a much more immersive experience. Intercom, sharing between multiple people on an event, both remote and in the field, and even across multiple events. So if you're bringing events together, which is very common now, you can actually have the same audio being fed to multiple people in the field, cameramen talking to each other, directors talking to each other, and that it adds the layers of capability that you would have been really used to as an event management company, as a broadcaster, doing everything on site. And I think all of those things will keep developing. And looking at the workflows, for example, IP workflows are great, but only when they're connected together. So we've now introduced a LiveU receive server that historically has always been in the cloud. We've had it for several years, but it was in our cloud. And handing off from our cloud to the client's cloud had to be the more traditional method. It might be an RTMP feed, it might be an HLS feed. What you're doing there is adding latency, and you're also reducing the quality, because you're broadly transcoding it into a slightly different format. Yeah. What we now have is the ability for a broadcaster, a sports production company, a media organization, in their own cloud, whether it's AWS or other clouds are available. We can drop a LiveU receive server into the customer's cloud. That enables handoff of NDI or TS, because you're in the same network layer, really improving workflows, really improving quality, reducing latency. And that means we are enhancing the end-to-end by being key part of that workflow. And for sure, we're going to add extra things like SRT, for example, both in and out of workflows, because it's another heavily adopted standard for transport.
So as far as, so now kind of getting involved, as in how do I do it? I believe you've just launched a new subscription service. Is that LiveU 360, I think? So,
yeah.
And this covers both hardware and software. So who are you aiming this at?
You're absolutely right. It's called LiveU 360. It's recently launched from our side, and it's aimed at bringing together the whole of the LiveU suite of products and capability. The aim really is towards any customer. This is not beholden to a particular genre or type of customer. It's really a customer who wants access to and to deploy the whole LiveU suite of products and solutions with a really clear understanding of what you're going to get, what you have access to, the service level that sits around that, all of the licenses that you might need, fixed inside an agreed cost per month, an agreed term. It could be 12 months, it could be 2 years, it could be 3 years. Okay. It could equally suit if you're a sports organization and your season is 9 months long. What do you do with the rest of the kit when it's not there for 3 months? You don't want to be paying for that. So we can tailor our solution, both technically and commercially, to offer a subscription model. You are subscribing to something for 9 months a year, 11 months a year to suit your own model, or it's a full 12-month subscription, but you're in a particular area. And we have two models. We have an essential model and a premium model, which are broadly the same in terms of what you receive, but it's really targeted at making sure we have the ability at sports, let's say the sports end of the market, in the premium model with some more enhancements, and in the essential model, maybe an alternative part of the market, maybe for news, for example, or current affairs. It's trying to make sure we have a simple view of what the customer can take from us, but actually equally taking it in a very simple way, a monthly subscription with everything included.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it, because I was going to ask about news. Obviously, nobody knows what the next big news story is going to be. So as far as the broadcaster, they may have an unprecedented demand, or it might be a slow news week. I mean, do you see the future of LiveU's offerings moving over to this subscription model?
I think it's an interesting question, because we've always had some very flexible models. You can purchase equipment, you can lease equipment, you can rent equipment for those ad hoc events. I think what we're really doing here is reflecting what's happening not just in our own industry, but also in other verticals. If you look at the software market, the SaaS market, whether it's Office 365 or others, you move from buying a product to subscribing to a product, because actually you want that product to be fresh and up to date all the time. And who would have thought that 10 years ago, the car salesman who would sell a car with as many conceivable extras that could go in with a finance package would actually never sell a car again to a customer. You engage the customer in a subscription. You look at Volvo's packages, for example, and you're effectively producing an evergreen approach to the product and services that you're positioning. And I think we do see that as an evolution, just in the same way that we see the workflow evolutions. And it's really important that we can adapt our offering within what a customer has. And a subscription model enables that. We're working very closely to make sure we can fit a workflow, for example, with Grabio or Blackbird or Grass Valley as key industry players. We recognize those industry players, and we will keep enhancing those subscription offerings so the customers can expect to have everything that we bring to market within their subscription at the services level. And beyond that, we've introduced a new support layer of platinum support, which really brings another layer of capability. It's a network operations center from LiveU that's got eyes on live feeds, so that if the team see something that's changing, we can help the customer respond to that, whether it's, we can see changing SIM card environment, for example, all the way through to a platinum support package that includes accidental damage. It's like an insurance policy, go compare the market. What do you want? Actually, accidental damage. When you've got kit out in the field and they're in tough environments, people don't drop these things for malice. They drop them because they've accidentally tripped over something or they've backed into something. Yeah. Our aim is to make sure that the customer doesn't have downtime. We're going to mitigate loss here, fast replacement of units, repair of units that they may be broken, but they may have been damaged accidentally. We'll replace screens and so on to keep people up and running as much as possible. So it's really trying to wrap a service to the customer in a long-term engagement, a long-term model that the customer gets the best from us all the time. So will the model shift? That was the primary question. Mm-hmm. I think it will. It's not going to be a revolution, because we want to respond to every customer that we've got, whether they traditionally CapEx things, whether they have some OpEx at the moment, whether they split between CapEx and OpEx. That's fine. We will support customers in the way that they want to be supported, but we certainly expect that subscription model to evolve, and we will evolve with that so that it becomes a primary part of our business.
Yeah, one of the things that I was wondering as well, you've hit there on your broadcasters, solutions for broadcasters. One of the things I was wondering is, what about a lot of your customers, a lot of your existing customers are one-man bands, two-man bands. Yeah. Does the subscription model appeal to them as much as the broadcasters?
It's a great question, and we work with a lot of freelancers here in the UK and a lot of small production companies. I think the subscription model fits in certain parts. I'm not going to say it's a one size fits all, because that's round pegs and square holes and so on. I think the smaller production companies, the subscription model fits really well, because you get workflow, you get capability. But equally, we've always had lease models where a freelancer can take the unit side, because they're not actually responsible for where that feed goes. So having something that includes support, it's a monthly fee for an LU800, for example, and the license that they need on their side is still there. We're not taking things away. We're not driving only into subscription. And actually this in part is adding a layer, but actually trying to make it simpler to engage with us, because you know that when you select that 360 model, you will get everything you need. And there may be some things in there that you're not going to use as much as other things, but actually they're there if you do need to use them. Why do I need that? Well, for all of the things that you didn't really think about already.
Yeah,
you've experienced
it. Thanks, Malcolm. It's going to be really interesting to see how LiveU 360 pans out, and I'm sure we'll be speaking to you in the near future again about it all.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's it for today. Yes. Please do check out everything on LiveU, and also have a look at the KitPlus Show website, kitplusshow.co.uk, for information on the fast approaching face-to-face KitPlus Show being held at Media City this summer. Finally, many thanks to Mediaproxy, who support KitPlus TV. You can see them at mediaproxy.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.